Bama gang. Because we always hit the nail on the head. So check this out, my Miami Hurricane fans, my Florida State Seminole fans, and my Florida Gator fans. Welcome to Big 3 T2Y every Sunday. As you guys know, we break down college football as a whole, not just Florida State, Miami, and the Florida Gators, but college football as a whole. So obviously, a lot of games got played. The only one out of the big three that did play yesterday was the Florida Gators. So we're going to talk about them. As you guys can see in the thumbnail, Florida beat LSU at home, beat them in the swamp, upset. Now, Steve Spurrier, one of the great Gator coaches or whatever, won their first national championship, that kind of deal. He was influencing the fans to rush the field had they gotten a win over LSU, which they did. They did not rush the field, by the way. I think Florida got a whiff of this, and they're like, nah, we're going to beef up security and this, that, and the third. But from the video I seen with Spurrier, and I'll share that with you guys in a second, Spurrier was influencing the fans to rush the field for the first time. Tell me something. Get in the comment section. Had Florida rushed the field against LSU, 6-2 or 6-3 team at the time, would that be a total embarrassment? Would that have been a total embarrassment for the Gator fan base? Bahamas in the building. Good morning. How you doing, my guy? As you guys come on in, as you guys tune in, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, get in the comment section so I know who's in here with me. And yeah, we're gonna break this thing down. Miami was on a bye week. Miami did not play this week. Neither did Florida State. So obviously, the center of attention for the big three yesterday was the Florida Gators. And shout out to the Florida Gators. Congratulations to them. A respectable win, a ranked opponent, good LSU team, not a great LSU team, but nonetheless, great win for Billy. DJ Lagway started. Badger came back, had a great game. I think he had like 131 yards in that game. Threw a dart for a touchdown, no interception thrown. Almost threw a few now. LSU gave those up, but nonetheless, no interceptions thrown. One touchdown for DJ, and the rest was history. LSU just couldn't get the job done. Congratulations to Billy on his 5th win of the season. 2 more games left. And it's safe to say that Florida might get bowl eligible this season. I'm going to go out on a limb and take the word might out of it and put will be bowl eligible this season. I'm sorry. Florida has 2 games left. Now, the next game on the list, I do think they get beat. I do think they come up short in this one. They played Ole Miss. Ole Miss, as you guys know, last week dropped off Georgia, dropped them on top of their head, beat them by 18. This week you see Georgia knocked off Tennessee, which we're going to talk about that in a little bit also. But Florida dropped off Tennessee, man. I said Tennessee. LSU. Georgia dropped off Tennessee. Man, that's tough. The SEC, the chaos, it just continues. It continues from week to week. So we're going to talk about that also. Some updates on the SEC championship game, the ACC championship game. As you guys know, Clemson played Pitt yesterday. SMU took on Boston College. Great games, came down to the end. A lot of good games happened. So we're going to talk about all of them. Syracuse. One of Miami's opponents went down yesterday to one of the worst teams in the conference, Stanford. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too, Bahamas. Mr. Overdose, what's going on with you? Good morning with you. Sunrise service. This is college football church. This is our college football church, man. Some of you guys probably just waking up. Some of you guys probably watching this on a rerun. Appreciate you guys. Whether you're watching on a rerun or live, hit the like button for me. All right, so obviously I got something brewing up for you guys pretty early. ESPN wasted no time. I do got a subscription to ESPN and ESPN Plus, so watch some of them certain games on my phone when I'm not at home and stuff like that. So, they wasted no time in getting to this projecting the college football top 25 after week 12, of course. A lot of matchups happened yesterday, some upset, like Georgia beating Tennessee, which I wouldn't even consider that to be an upset. A lot of people took Georgia to win. A lot of people thought Georgia would win. Georgia was at home. Now, Carson Beck has been up and down, but nonetheless, he showed out yesterday. BYU is no longer amongst the undefeateds. BYU got knocked off by Kansas. Man, that's tough. BYU. Also, when you look at the Big 12 as a whole, Colorado is on a roll. That's tough. So we're going to get into all of that this morning, man. But let's just dive into this now. As you guys can see it on the screen, I haven't strolled past this yet, so I don't know what to expect. I do know that it's going to shake up a little bit. Alabama won yesterday. Georgia won yesterday. Those guys was at the bottom of the list, along with Ole Miss. BYU's, of course, they're going to drop. Tennessee's going to drop. And the rest will be shift around a little bit. So let's see where ESPN is projecting this thing now. Last time we looked at this last week before the conference, before the guys got together on Tuesday and made the actual, rankings, ESPN was projecting Miami to drop down to around, I think, 11 or 12. So we're going to see. Montreal in the building. What's good, my guy? Clixie in the building. Canes Forever in the building. What's good with y'all? T2Y. Where's Sarge at? Sarge, the last video I made, Sarge was in the comment section. If you guys looking for Sarge and you can't find him, I'm gonna pin his comment. So when people looking for him in them videos, I'll pin his comment so you guys can see his comment at the top, so y'all can comment to him so he can see it. But last week Georgia did catch an L and we didn't see Sarge. That's tough. Hopefully it show up this morning. I mean, Georgia did win, so and it was a good win too. 7th ranked Tennessee. So hopefully he'll show up this morning, and then you guys could drill him on why he didn't show up last week or what happened last week. Can kind of get some retro questions in. But yeah, man. Let's get to this ESPN list though. Let's see where they're predicting. Like I said, last week they did not predict Miami to be number 9, by the way. They predicted us to be like 11 or 12. So we'll see where they're at this week. So BYU losing to Kansas, of course, they're talking about that. Boise State, man. Boise State took an L. Did they? Did Boise State take an L? Nah, they didn't. I'm kidding. I'm joking with you guys. But Boise State, man, that's tough. So Tennessee, of course, they talking about Oregon. Oregon came down to the wire with Wisconsin. Now, I did watch that game last night. Wisconsin gave them hell until the final minute. But, sometimes it'd be like that. You come up a little bit short. But Wisconsin had that one. Now, this is a Wisconsin that's missing, a couple key pieces. The one to be mentioned, Tyler Van Dyke. He's been hurt ever since the Alabama game earlier on in the season, which they did lose. But Wisconsin put up a fight. Wisconsin didn't lay down. Oregon didn't look like the offensive juggernaut that everybody thought they were against Wisconsin. Wisconsin played with a lot of speed, played with a lot of tempo last night. That game was kind of chaotic, flipping back and forth between that one and the Georgia game all night last night. So, that's tough. But Georgia ruffled some feathers when it comes to the SEC. And, that's pretty much what we saw from them yesterday, ruffled Tennessee's feather. Every time Tennessee gets up there in the rankings, somebody beat them and they drop right back down. Now, this is Tennessee's second loss, I'm thinking, in the SEC. So, like I said, we're going to look at all that. But ESPN is projecting the top 12. So they're projecting Oregon to stay at number 1, which rightfully so. I think Oregon will stay at number 1. They are undefeated. They are 11-0. All the other teams on the list are, not going to be that much better than what they are. So Ohio State coming in at number 2. They got a win yesterday. A huge win at that. Knocked off Purdue, beat them, beat them, beat them, beat them. How you supposed to beat a sorry team? Plain and simple. Blow them out. So I got a bold prediction for you guys, and you guys can tell me how you guys feel about this in the comment section. But I got Ohio State winning the Big Ten this season. I got Ohio State winning the Big Ten. I got Ohio State beating Oregon in the rematch. That's just me. Y'all can let me know how you feel about that. I'm not a Ohio State fan by any means, but I do believe that they're a better team than Oregon. I believe Oregon got a little bit lucky. Technicality in that first win that they got, I think Ohio State beat them. I got Ohio State beating them. He said Ohio State played Northwestern. Yeah, Northwestern. I'm sorry. Penn State was the one that played Purdue. Yeah, but nonetheless, they still blew them out. Blew out Northwestern. Texas. I don't think if I'm mistaken, did Texas play yesterday? Did Texas play yesterday? For some reason Texas wasn't on my radar yesterday. For some reason, Texas was not on my radar yesterday. Let me double check and make sure on Texas. Yeah, Texas did play yesterday, and they beat Arkansas. They beat Arkansas 20-10. That for some reason my brain wasn't clicking on that one. But Texas did play yesterday, the number 3 team in the country. They improved to 9-1 after beating Arkansas. So congratulations to them. They still got to play Texas A&M at the end of the year, so gonna see how that goes. But I think so far we all knew that the top 3 would stay the same. All 3 of those teams won their games, and we might as well go top 4 because Penn State also won yesterday. They beat Purdue, beat them drastically, beat them how they're supposed to beat them. So they'll improve to 9-1 with 2 more games left in the season. So Indiana, they're putting Indiana in at number 5, 10-0 Indiana. What can we say about Indiana this season? Phenomenal job. First 10-win season so far. And so far, they still got to play Ohio State. So I think that's going to be one of those games to look out for this week. Obviously, if they end up winning that one, you might as well just go ahead and book them for the Big Ten championship game. Not necessarily saying they're going to win it, but if they do beat Ohio State this upcoming week, then that will basically knock Ohio State plain and simple, knock them out possibilities of playing for the Big Ten championship. So that game will be a must-win for Ryan Day and Ohio State if they want to continue to fight to play for the Big Ten championship. Coming in at number 6, you have Notre Dame. Notre Dame, another blowout win yesterday, beat the bejesus out of Virginia, and continue to improve after losing to Northern Illinois early on in the season. A total embarrassment of a loss. But so far, so good. The past 2 weeks, they're blown out opponent. As you guys know, last week they played the Florida State Seminoles, and they beat them 52-3. 52-3. Yeah, 52-3. They beat Florida State 52-3. They handled business against Virginia yesterday. Keep it moving though. They beat 51-14, another blowout win, another 50 burger. Notre Dame doing Notre Dame things. As you guys know, Notre Dame doesn't have a conference championship or a conference to play in. So all they got to do is just continue to win, and they'll be in the playoffs. They'll, solidify a spot for them. Obviously, they're the number 6 team in the country, according to this ESPN prediction. Tuesday night we'll see what the real rankings will be, but I think this one might be spot on so far, so good. First through the first 6. Miami will drop in the ESPN prediction to number 7. As you guys know, two teams lost. BYU lost. Tennessee lost. Those two teams was ahead of Miami in the rankings. Obviously, with those two teams losing, Miami will move up. Miami did not play yesterday, and it is what it is. What I will be more interested to see and hear about is where the committee would put on Alabama, who won yesterday against Mercer, blow them out, cupcake opponent. Alabama was at number 10. Miami was at number 9. Do Miami go up more than Alabama, or do they jump Miami with Alabama? Those are some things that you will have to see when it happen, or think about. Also, with Georgia beating Tennessee, Georgia was at number 12. Where do Georgia go from there? Ole Miss did not play just like Miami. Do they move up, or do they try to keep them in the same spot where they are? So you got Miami at number 7. Then you got Alabama. They're predicting Alabama to be at number 8. With an 8-2 record. Actually, they should update the records because Alabama, with the game against Mercer, they're now 9-2 with one more game left to play against Auburn, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll check out the Crimson Tide. You know what? Let's do this. Let me open this one in a different link. So let's just make sure the information that I'm putting out is actually correct. So Alabama does have 2 more games instead of 1. They got 2. So to my mistake, they do play Oklahoma at Oklahoma, and they have Auburn also. So Alabama do have 2 more SEC games to play. This SEC, the whole SEC is just crazy at this moment, man. Just crazy. So they're putting Alabama in at number 8. Let's go on down. So Ole Miss comes in at number 9. This is what they're projecting for Ole Miss. They're projecting Ole Miss to be at 9. So Ole Miss will move up in the rankings. Georgia will move from being number 12 to number 10, according to ESPN. This is their projection. I'm surprised they didn't, jump Georgia over Ole Miss, but then again, Ole Miss did beat Georgia, so I could see why they didn't do this. But let's keep it moving. So they'll drop Tennessee from number 7 all the way down to 11, so they'll still be in the mix. Tennessee will still be in the mix. Huge loss against the Dogs, but they'll still be in the mix. And coming in at number 12, they're putting in their Boise State. Boise State did get a win yesterday. They won by 21 points. So at the end of the day, it is what it is, man. This is where we're at. This is where we're at with the ESPN, prediction for the college football rankings. So teams that are to fill out the rest of the top 25, they do have the rest of the top 25 list. So BYU will come in at number 13. They'll drop from 6 to 13 according to ESPN. 14 would be SMU. SMU with a win yesterday over Boston College. Final minute win or whatever. Texas A&M will come in at 15. Colorado will come in at number 16. Colorado with a win yesterday also, against Utah. Big win for them. Travis Hunter, man, he just keeps improving his stocks to possibly be the Heisman Trophy winner this season. At this point, I think he's leading in that department. And yesterday, he also added another accolade, which is a rushing touchdown. As you guys know, he played both sides of the field. He got 3 interceptions already on the season on almost 60 receptions. So obviously, tremendous guy. 2 years in a row, you see him put up phenomenal number on both sides of the field. Yesterday, ESPN was showing the comparisons of who's done it like he's done it, and the only guy that came up was Champ Bailey. So obviously, Travis Hunter is in a league of his own, man. Sad story for Florida State because he was supposed to be he was supposed to commit to them. He was supposed to end up playing for Florida State, but he ended up choosing to go to JSU with Deion Sanders, and now he's at Colorado doing phenomenal things. And Florida State fans are, stuck with Norvell and whatever he brings in. Also, I see a lot of Florida State fans crying now because Colorado did improve to 8-2 yesterday, and of course, the Deion Sanders to Florida State talk was going all week. And then, of course, the Florida State fans are, oh, we could have had Deion, we could have had Travis Hunter, we could have had Kamani McLean and all these other guys, and it would have been a total different show, and we would be winning, and we would be 1-9 right now, and we wouldn't be a total embarrassment, and this, that, and the fourth. So obviously, Florida State fans are in there. What else if coulda, shoulda, wouldas right now? Man, that's tough. Imagine this time last year, that undefeated Florida State team to where they're at now. That's tough, Florida State fans. That's tough. That's tough. And then this upcoming week, you really have nothing to look forward to because you play a cupcake team this week in Charleston Southern. And boy, if you lose that game, my goodness. But anyways, keep it moving. Clemson comes in at number 17. South Carolina with a win over Missouri. They comes in at number 18 on this list. Missouri at number 19. Then you have Arizona State with a win over Kansas State yesterday. They coming in at number 20. Army at number 21. I think Army is still undefeated, if I'm not mistaken. Tulane, they got a huge win yesterday. I think it was like 35-0 or something like that against Navy, if I'm not mistaken. UNLV, they improved to number 23 in the country. Iowa State is at number 24. And Washington State at number 25. So that will round out the top 25 according to ESPN projections. So let's dive into college football yesterday. So let's talk about Florida versus LSU. Obviously, this is Big Three. We talk about the Big Three games first, and then we break down the rest of college football. So I did sit around on Saturday and watch the Florida Gators versus the LSU Tigers. Great win for Florida. Now, DJ Lagway, 13 for 26, one touchdown. Nasmeyer, 27 for 40. He, kind of tough day for him, but nonetheless, 260 yards, one touchdown. Just wasn't quite enough. LSU's running back, Durham, he ran 20 times for 91 yards, no touchdown. And of course, the young guy, the freshman, I think it's a freshman, Bach for Florida, 6 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown by Bach pretty much sealed the game for Florida, going on to win 27-16. So huge day for Elijah Badger. I think this is what Florida fans was waiting for to see from this kind of guy. Obviously, the injury bugs all season, running throughout their whole team. Trey Wilson's down. Montrell's been on that list. Even DJ Lagway's been on that list. Most of their DBs are on that list. So obviously, Florida's been, hit with the injury bugs this season. But nonetheless, Lagway played. Elijah Badger played. Elijah Badger with 6 catches for 131 yards and a touchdown. And the Gators, at home in the swamp, they beat LSU, a rival team. Obviously, last season, LSU kind of ran them in, dropped 50 on them, I think, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken. If it wasn't last year, it was the year before. But, yeah, Billy got 50 dropped on them one of them years. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but that's tough. Not this time around. I think it was last year because they did have the Heisman Trophy winner in Jaden Daniels last season. So, yeah, Jaden Daniels did run for almost 700 yards on Florida. So, I think it was last year. But revenge is sweet. Florida got the job done. Florida got the job done. Congratulations to the Florida Gators. Um, a respectable win, beat Brian Kelly. Now, obviously, LSU now is 6-4. They're already bowl eligible, but they're 3-3 in conference. Florida right now they're 5-5, 3-4 in conference. Now, Steve Spurrier, Florida's first national championship coach. I seen a video yesterday, and I kind of want to provide that video for you guys because context is a must. Context is a must. I could talk about it, but if I show you, it'll be a lot different. So let me go ahead and pull this up because Steve Spurrier was influencing the Florida Gator fans yesterday. If they beat LSU, a 6-3 at the time LSU team, 6-3. Think about this. Florida Gators yesterday going into that game, they was 4-5. They won the game and they improved to 5-5. Steve Spurrier was actually influencing the Florida Gator fans to rush the field, to do what Florida has never done before. Florida fans has never in the history of football rushed the field. Steve Spurrier was influencing the fans, telling them straight up, not no coded messages, telling them straight up to rush the field. If Florida win, rush the field. Steve Spurrier. If Florida win, rush the field. Now, I also did see a Kamani McLean spotting yesterday. Shout out to Flow Factory. Shout out to Silk. I did see a video of him with Kamani McLean, and I did see McLean got a cast on his arm. So obviously, why you haven't been seeing him is because that injury to the arm. While we on the topic of the Gators, shout out to the Miami Hurricanes women basketball team. They took on the Florida Gators yesterday in Gainesville and came up with a huge win. The Hurricanes 83, the Florida Gators 73. 10-point win for the ladies. Shout out to the ladies basketball team. They're undefeated right now. I think they're 4-0 and huge win against Florida yesterday. So, went up to Gainesville and beat them. So obviously, I did tell you guys I'm going to provide you guys with some context. So obviously, let's do this. Let's bring up Mr. Steve Spurrier. Mr. Steve Spurrier, Gator great, and this was his message to the Gator fans yesterday. All right, guys. So there you have it, man. Steve Spurrier was basically influencing the fans if they were to beat LSU to swarm the swamp. That's what he called it. A lot of people call it storm the field. He was coming up with a whole new deal of swarm the swamp. So say no sound. Uh, Not quite sure why they didn't play the sound because I do have the sound on when it comes to sharing. But if you guys didn't hear it and you guys want to hear what he had to say, you guys could follow me on Twitter. You guys could follow me on Twitter. I'll put my Twitter in the chat. You guys can follow me on there. And the video is on my page, so if you guys want to check it out, you can. But it's at T2Y Hurricane underscore Hurricane. At T2Y underscore Hurricane. But I'll put that in the chat for you guys. Also, let me double check to see why I did not share the audio. But if you guys want to see that video, if you didn't hear the audio, you guys could check it out on Twitter at T2Y Hurricane. Just scroll on my page, you'll see it. You can't miss it. Let's see. Let me go back to here to see why it was not sharing the audio. Guys, let me know in the chat. Can you hear the audio?
We had a lot of fun as Gators like we have. Not as much as we used to have. So
Let me know in the chat. Can you guys hear the audio?
We can do. So I'm going to send a message out. Coach Spurrier is going to allow our team to not rush the field after the game, but we're going to call it swarm the swamp after the game. Students, they're going to be free to run out there. Gator fans who can jump over the wall and run out there. Everybody's doing it, boss. We've never done it. So we have a chance.
Okay, so still no sound. Still no sound. But I see somebody say audio is good. Okay, so audio is good from Bahamas. Yeah, it's good. From so Dirty Kane thing. Let me know if you could hear it, because
For the first time in school history to swarm the swamp after the game. And I'm going to tell you what, the players and everybody all over the country, they love doing that. The students love doing that. And to my knowledge, we've never done it. Has anybody ever seen us jump on the wall and everybody run out there? So here's how we're going to do it. We're not going to tear down the goalpost. Somebody get hurt. Don't tear down the goalpost. And don't agitate the other team. But just running around, act like a bunch of idiots and jump and hug everybody that wants to hug. Gotta make sure they want to hug back. But if they...
All right, so basically my man was telling them to swarm the field, man. I think, to be honest with you, if Florida had swarmed the field for real, which I saw on the sideline that they basically beefed up security. They had extra police officers and everything. Obviously, they got the message. They saw what Spurrier put out there, and Florida wanted to have nothing to do with that. They did not want to storm the field. I think it would have been a total embarrassment for that program had they done this. You beat a 6-3 LSU team, a 6-3 LSU team. Come on, you just improved to 5-5. It's not even like it was the last game of the season. You're now bowl eligible. It's not like, oh, we win this game and we're going to the SEC championship, possibly the playoffs or anything. This would have been a meaningless storm the field or swarm the swamp, like he called it. Man, this would have been a total embarrassment for the Florida Gator program. I wish they would have did it. I absolutely wish they would have did it. Man, this would have been a nice little narrative for me to push. Down bad Gators swarm the field for the first time. Man, that's tough. Against a mediocre LSU team. Man, that's tough. But, man, congratulations to Florida. That was a huge win. But Let's get into the rest of college football yesterday. A lot happened, like I said. A lot happened. Obviously, Tuesday, a lot of people will find out where their team's going to be ranked. The SEC championship possibilities, that's changed for a lot of teams. Also, you got the ACC championship game, which, still stays the same after yesterday. SMU did win their game. Clemson won their game. I think right now you could put Pitt on the back burner. Pretty much Pitt squandered their opportunity yesterday to beat Clemson, of course. Klubnik with a 50-yard run to seal the deal for Clemson. Total terrible, absolute breakdown for Pitt at the last minute of that game, but it is what it is. All right, so let's not just run through the top 25. Let's do it by conference because we're gonna go into each week for the conference. We're gonna do things by the conference. We're gonna start with the ACC out. So obviously, first game we got on the chopping block. We got. Let me make sure you guys can see that. Okay, perfect. So first game on the chopping block. Notre Dame 35, Virginia 14. Notre Dame beats Virginia. Notre Dame has no more ACC games to play. They're not in the ACC at all, so it wouldn't have any bearings on the ACC championship game. But nonetheless, they beat Virginia yesterday. They improved to 9-1. They'll definitely move up in the rankings. Both 6 and 7 lost. They're sitting at number 8 in the country. So Notre Dame with a 35-14 win, they'll improve. They improved to 9-1, and down goes Virginia. Virginia is at 5-5 right now. They're still looking for that next win to go into the postseason so they could play a bowl game. Pretty much 2 more games to get it done. Boston College hung with SMU until the very end, where SMU just claimed victory. SMU, few players you guys are very familiar with, of course, but the main one to talk about yesterday was Brashard Smith, 18 carries, 120 yards, and a touchdown. This was a Miami Hurricane that obviously hit the transfer portal, ended over reunited with Rhett Lashley. Obviously, Rhett Lashley coached under Manny Diaz at Miami as an offensive coordinator, got the head coaching job at SMU, and of course took a lot of Miami Hurricanes, former Miami Hurricanes over there with him. Brashard Smith was one of those, and obviously he's been doing a phenomenal job. So a lot of questions, a lot of conversation has been had. Did Mario misuse Brashard Smith at Miami? Should Miami had given Brashard Smith better roles at Miami? Because obviously he's, tearing it up at SMU. Or, do you guys think Miami moving on from him was for the better? You guys can let me know that in the comment section or in the live chat. Let's keep it moving, though. Boston College, actually, before we move on from that one, SMU improved to 9-1. They're still undefeated in conference at 6-0. Got 2 more games left in conference to play, so we'll see if they'll, come into the ACC their first season and basically be perfect in conference play and end up playing for the conference championship against whether it's Miami, Clemson, or whoever. But good job, SMU. Louisville got upset yesterday by 2-7 Stanford. Louisville got upset by 2-7 Stanford. Stanford now improved to 3-7 with pretty much nothing to play for. 35-38. Louisville basically wet the bed yesterday. Wet the bed against Stanford. Man, that's tough. Dang, Louisville. Man, that's tough. Clemson versus Pitt yesterday was basically the ACC game of the week, in my opinion. These were 2 teams that were still trying to battle it out. Had Pitt beaten Clemson, Pitt probably would have been hoping for a 2-loss Miami or a 2-loss SMU, or even 3-loss SMU, because SMU did play yesterday. But nonetheless, Clemson got the job done, 24-20. Obviously, last-minute touchdown, 50-yard run by Klubnik to seal the game away. And down goes Pitt at home. The fans were not enthusiastic about it. Obviously, Pitt took the lead for the first time with only like a minute or so to go, with like 2 or 3 minutes left to go in the game, and then Clemson did what they did. Couple runs by Club Nick, and it was to the house. And down goes Pitt. 3 games in a row. Pitt has dropped 3 games in a row so far. So they're 3-3 in conference, of course, after starting the season 7-0, 3-0 in conference. That's tough. Syracuse went out to California and beat Cal 33-25. 33-25. Now, obviously, let's go back to Clemson. Clemson just finished ACC play. Clemson has no more ACC games to be played. Clemson, they will take on South Carolina at the end of the year, and they probably got another non-conference game in between. So we'll look at Clemson's schedule for next week also when we look at the upcoming games. Syracuse, they're 7-3 now, 4-3 in conference. They beat Cal 33-25. Obviously, they'll play Miami at the end of the season, the last game of the season. What they do next week will pretty much, tell me and show me what kind of Syracuse team we're going to play. Obviously, Miami's got to play Wake Forest this upcoming week, so we'll also monitor both teams and see how both of them do in their matchup this week, and then we'll make some comparisons, because obviously every team that Miami's played has not played Miami the same way they've played any other team throughout the country. I think Miami's getting the best from everybody every week. So Syracuse is one of those teams that we're going to pay attention to. Now, Wake Forest versus North Carolina also happened yesterday. Another one of those opponents that Miami do play. Wake Forest, went down. North Carolina improved to 6-4, bowl eligible now. Wake Forest is 4-6. Coming into the Miami game, of course, Miami's last home game of the season, by the way. Times have not been announced for that game yet, but I'm pretty sure sometime, during this week or maybe even today, we'll get time for that game. Or maybe it happened while I haven't been looking, but we'll check. We'll check on all that. But Wake Forest is down bad, guys. Miami, there's no reason in the world for Miami to drop this game. I don't see anywhere Miami dropped this game. If Miami dropped this game, this would be a huge upset. This would be a travesty. Miami season would be pretty much over when it comes to ACC championship, when it comes to the playoffs. This is a must-win game for Miami. This is a must-win. Nowhere, shape, or form can Miami lose this game. This is a home game. This is all the chips are in the basket. Miami's next 2 games, all the chips are in the basket. All the chips are in the basket. They have to win this game. They have to win this game. They have to win this game. Jay says it's at 12, so the time has been announced. Okay, so it's a 12 o'clock game. Me personally, I like 12 o'clock games. I like them. I don't have to sit around and wait until the game and this, that, and the third. I like 12 o'clock games. That's just me. A lot of guys, y'all like the 3:30 games. Y'all like the prime time. That's cool. I like the 12 o'clock games because I like to get them over with. I don't like waiting. I hate anxiety. I like 12 o'clock games, plain and simple. That might just be me. But for those of you guys that do go to the games and tailgate and everything like that, it's kind of a sticky situation. Especially, do you cook breakfast? Do you cook lunch? Do you drink? Do you drink at 10 o'clock in the morning? That kind of deal. So of course, a lot of people don't like the 12 o'clock games because they want to drink, but they don't want to drink early. Nobody wants to be drinking at 9 in the morning and stuff like that. Because most of the time the gates are going to open at 8 o'clock. You're going to tailgate, of course, at 8 o'clock in the morning. What are you cooking? If you're cooking eggs, shrimps, grits, whatever it is, fish, maybe catfish or whatever. What are you making at that time in the morning? So I get it, but I like the 12 o'clock games, man. But nonetheless, that's the ACC. That's the ACC this week. So let's go into week 13. Week 13 in ACC matchups. Now, clearly, we got a Thursday night game. Got a Thursday night game. You got Georgia Tech versus NC State. Neither of these games, none of these games matter to Miami. I'm telling you guys now. The only games that matter to Miami the rest of the season is Miami versus Wake and Miami versus Syracuse. Those are the only two games that matter to Miami as of this moment. As of this moment. Plain and simple. As of this moment, the only games that matter to Miami is Miami versus Wake and Miami versus Syracuse. At this moment, Miami controls his own destiny. Win, win, win. That's it. That's all we got to do. And we will be in Atlanta. Not Charlotte, Atlanta. Because the game has been moved to Atlanta. Obviously, the hurricane situation, South Carolina, North Carolina, those areas that was impacted by that hurricane. Obviously, they still have those situations to deal with. So the game been moved to Atlanta. So, yeah, win those games. Now, speaking of those games, obviously, 12 o'clock kickoff, Miami versus Wake. This is at Hard Rock Stadium. Miami's at home. The spread has not came out yet. The spread isn't out yet. The weather is said to be around 70 degrees. So to me, 70 degrees is like almost perfect weather. It ain't hot and it ain't cold either, in my opinion. Now, some of y'all probably, if the temperatures drop below 73 or 70, 75, you probably go crazy. But to me, 70 is perfect weather. Perfect weather to be outside. It might be a little windy, sunny day, but it ain't hot. You ain't out there sweating, that kind of deal. Perfect weather. Perfect weather. Miami's last home game of the season, obviously. So guys, go out there if you can, if you're around, if you got the availability to do so. Please go support the Canes. Please do. But moving on from that game, because obviously I think Miami will handle business. Not quite sure what you guys' thoughts on it. You guys can put score predictions in the chat. I know it's pretty early. It's Sunday morning, but you guys can put some score predictions in the chat for this game. What do you guys think it'll be? Do you think Miami defense come out on a different level this week? Some of the guys obviously last week was banged up. We saw a couple injuries, especially in the secondary, the DBs. We saw a couple injuries, so obviously some things are going to shake up. Hopefully some guys are okay to play, come back, and everything like that. But score predictions, what are you guys expecting to see now? Obviously the offense, still the number one offense in the country. Nonetheless, we got beat by Georgia Tech, and we're sitting on a bye week. So a lot of guys, that needed that extra rest, that needed the come back in, bring it in tight. Like Mario said, this is that week to do so. The motto all season for the Hurricanes has been bring it in tight. The main thing, keep the main thing the main thing. What else he said? Yeah, 1-0 every week is 1-0. So plain and simple. What are you guys expecting to see this week? Obviously, I know a lot of you guys have concerns about Cam Ward not taking the check downs, of course. I know that's one of y'all main concern. Also, the play calling issues with Lance Guidry, of course. Do you guys think some of these problems will be solved this week? Do you guys think Miami will just continue to play nail biters? Y'all let me know how you feel in the chat. But let's keep it moving. Pitt versus Louisville. One of those games that at this moment in the ACC really don't matter. At this moment, it kind of really don't matter. SMU If they were to drop 2 games, they still would play over these 2 guys. Now, obviously, Miami and Clemson's already out of the mix when it comes to the ACC. They're done in ACC conference play. So, only team that would be affected would be Miami. So, SMU or Clemson, if Miami were to drop the next 2, SMU and Clemson would play each other. So, obviously, Pitt versus Louisville has pretty much no meaning at this moment. No meaning. Plain and simple. If Miami drop a game, Clemson and SMU will play for the championship, the ACC championship. So every game outside of SMU and Miami, because SMU do have 2 more ACC games to play. Outside of SMU and Miami, none of these other games really matter. If SMU were to drop a game, it would be up to them in Clemson to play Miami. If Miami wins out. Plain and simple. Clemson would need SMU to drop both games at this moment. At this moment, Clemson would need SMU to drop both games. They would need Miami to drop a game, and they would need SMU to drop both games. Either way. So if SMU drop a game and Miami wins both, they'll still play each other. SMU and Miami will still play each other. If Miami drop a game, SMU and Clemson will play each other. As long as, SMU don't drop 2 games. So the scenario, there's still a small possibility of scenarios outside of Miami, winning both of those games, outside of SMU dropping both of their next 2 games, which I don't see any of that happening. I don't see Miami dropping a game between Wake Forest and Syracuse. Obviously, Syracuse will be more of a challenge, more of a possibility than Wake Forest. But I don't see SMU dropping the game either. So I think as long as SMU and Miami wins, that's your ACC championship game. But nonetheless, like Pitt versus Louisville right now is just for better positioning when it comes to bowl games. Both teams are already bowl eligible. Pitt is at 7-3 already. Louisville is at 6-4. They're both bowl eligible. Now this game is played at Louisville. Pitt is on a 3-game losing streak. So can Pitt break this streak, or will Louisville improve their spot on the totem pole when it comes to picking the bowl games that the ACC are got a huge bid in. But SMU will take on this week Virginia at 12 p.m. So all the Louisville game, that one's at flex. Louisville Pitt is on flex right now. They're putting it from between 3:30 to 4 o'clock. So it could be played on one of those times, either 3:30 or 4 o'clock. They haven't quite figured it out yet. But both SMU versus Virginia and Miami versus Wake Forest, both of those games will be played at 12 o'clock. If you're a Clemson fan, you're hoping that SMU loses, and you're hoping that Miami loses. Now, obviously, if Miami lose, Miami's going to hope that SMU lose, and they're going to have to hope that SMU lose again next week for a possible chance at a tiebreaker. So, win, win, win. That's all you got to do, Miami. Plain and simple. Syracuse next week, they'll take on UConn. Non-conference game. They're at home. UConn is 7-3. Syracuse is 7-3. So this should be a nice rival game for the two. And, we'll see where it goes. Boston College versus North Carolina. North Carolina, with their win yesterday over Wake Forest, they are now bowl eligible at 6-4. Boston College looks to go for the win to actually be bowl eligible also. Now, keep in mind, Boston College will be playing without Thomas Castellano. Obviously, he didn't play this week. Last week stepped away from the team into the transfer portal. Now, names that I have been hearing, I've only heard one name that's pretty much interested in, Castellanos out of Boston College is Florida State. Florida State. Obviously, DJU is looking for a medical red shirt so he could come back and play for Florida State again next year. Oh my God, I hope that happens. Dude's a terrible quarterback. Their offensive line is terrible and all that. They just fired their offensive coordinator, just fired the defense coordinator, the wide receivers coach, and some other people are going to get fired. So Florida State is going to be a rebuild team, an absolute dumpster fire next year. And if they have DJU as their quarterback, it's even better. So that's tough. But having Castellanos at Florida State would be kind of interesting too. He do give you a Jordan Travis kind of feel. Wouldn't necessarily say he's quite as Travis, but pretty much that what Mike Norvell need. That's what he need to run his offense. He need a quarterback that's very mobile. Obviously, DJ is not. DJ is not looking to run. DJ look like he runs in slow motion. That's tough. But anyway, let's keep it moving. Speaking of Florida State, you say VA will beat SMU. That's an interesting take. If you believe so, obviously the spread hasn't been dropped. The spread ain't dropped. So if you believe that when Vegas dropped their numbers, put some money on it, man. If you obviously believe that and you think it's going to happen, put some money on it. You'll win big. Because I'm pretty sure that SMU is going to be a huge favorite. Pretty sure. Charleston Southern versus Florida State. This might be the worst game of the whole season. This might be the worst game of the whole season. This game will be played on ESPN Plus and ACC Extra. Next week at this time, Florida State will play at 1:30 on ESPN Plus and ACC Extra. They are taking on a 1-10 Charleston Southern. Charleston Southern is 1-10. That is who Florida State opponent is. Florida State 1-9, Charleston Southern 1-10. This is an awful game. This game will be two awful teams playing each other. I changed my mind. This is not going to be an awful game. This is going to be a spectacular game. Two of the worst teams play each other. They're going to be on almost the same playing level to where it'll be a good game. This will be a must-watch game. Right now, ESPN Plus and ACC Extra, this is a primetime game for Florida State. 1:30, 1-9 versus 1-10. This is a primetime game. This game right here is going to be the total package. This game right here is going to be so good, you won't want to miss a second of it. Trust me, you will not want to miss a second of this game. Two of the worst teams in the country, when they play each other, they're on the same level. It's going to actually look like good football. Obviously, if you watch Florida State versus good teams, they're going to get blown out. It's bad football. But when you watch Florida State versus a team that's on the same exact level as them, it's good football. It's going to be some good football in Tallahassee. In Doak Campbell, it's going to be some good football this week. Florida State versus Charleston Southern is going to be a must-watch. You can't miss it. I'm telling you, you cannot miss this game. You cannot miss this game. This is going to be an absolute phenomenon. This game is, the ratings in this game should be off the charts. I'm telling you guys, if you don't watch this game, you're missing out. Florida State versus Charleston Southern. If you watch the Super Bowl every year, this is that kind of game. This game is going to be like a good halftime show. I'm telling you guys, do not miss Florida State versus Charleston Southern. Don't miss it. Oh my God. What does this mean for Florida State if they were to lose to Charleston Southern this season? What does that mean for Florida State? They're the laughing stock of college football right now. In the ACC, they won it out. They cried last season. They cried all the beginning of this season, and now they're 1-9. Their ACC play is already over. They only got 2 more games: Charleston Southern, of course, and then the Florida Gators at the end of the season in rival week. Their ACC play is over. They are 1-7 in ACC play this season after winning the ACC championship last year against Louisville, going 13-1. Florida State in 2024 is 1-10. Yes, Georgia beat them in 24, not 23, in 24. I'm talking about calendar year. They are 1-10 right now. 1-10. Now, obviously, this season 1-9. So, Charleston Southern is already 1-10. Do you guys think Florida State is jealous of Charleston Southern at this moment? How dare you get the 1-10 before us? We should be that 1-10 before y'all. That should be our title. Us Seminoles, we should be the one at 1-10 first, but y'all got there first. So obviously we're here and we're going to show you guys that we deserve to be 1-10 and we're going to lose to y'all. I can't take Florida State serious in 2024. I can't take them serious. Man, listen. Florida State fans, I'm going to be real with you guys. Y'all losing is bad for the channel. It's really bad for the channel. Because when you lose, your fans don't show up. Your fans ain't got nothing to talk about. They got no reason to be over here. I need them over here, obviously. I need Florida State fans over here. I need them in the chat. I need them talking and flexing and pumping their chest a little bit. But y'all been silent since week 1. Obviously, you got Henry Lee show up every now and then. He's defeated right now. He don't know what to say about his team. 863 Seminole TV. I watch his live shows, and it's just a sad pity party. I still watch some of Turn Tally videos whenever I can stomach them. Obviously, he be talking reckless and crazy all the time. So it's read between the lines here and there. But FSU football, man, FSU Twitter, FSU YouTube, right now it's in the gutters. They have really nothing to talk about. They have really nothing to look forward to. They're talking about Deion right now. That's what they're talking about. Deion and what Deion is doing at Colorado. Fun facts, Florida State fans. Deion wasn't eligible to be your head coach when you guys hired Norvell. Let me put that out there for you. Deion was not eligible to be your coach when you hired Mike Norvell. Deion needed a certain degree that every head coach every coach need to be a coach. Obviously, you guys seen that Warren Sapp had to go get his degree so he could coach at Colorado, which we're going to talk about Warren Sapp in a minute. No, you know what? Let's skip straight to it. Miami Hurricane fans, watching Colorado, watching, your former great, your gold jacket, Warren Sapp over there coaching the defensive line. Would you guys want Warren Sapp at the U? Would you guys want Warren Sapp coaching the defensive line at the U? If not, alongside, Jason Taylor, or even by himself, because I'm pretty sure that Jason Taylor is going to get opportunities, to go elsewhere and coach elsewhere and stuff like that in the near future. So would you guys want Warren Sapp to come on in there and coach them defensive linemen? Y'all let me know in the chat. Y'all let me know. I see Henry Lee in the chat. That's tough, Henry Lee. Your team is gutter juice, ass, trash, basuda, all of that. Y'all are terrible. You're seeking out your 10th loss this year. You're not even looking for wins anymore. You're just looking for losses at this moment. Trash. Hopefully, you know what? Florida State fans, I'm going to do y'all a solid. I'm going to do y'all a solid one. Next week, I will be home. Like I said, them 10 o'clock games, I got, personal businesses and stuff to take care of outside of those early mornings on them Saturdays. So I'm gonna do Florida State a solid one. Next week at 1:30, when you guys play Charleston Southern, I will do a watch party. I'll actually put the actual game on the screen so we can watch it together. We can watch Florida State together next week on the screen. I will put the game on the screen next week. Man, think about it. T2Y in 2024, Florida State is such trash gutter juice that I'm actually able to broadcast one of their games on my channel with no issues. With no issues. That's tough. That's tough. Florida State, man. Ooh, shoot. Boy, the mighty has fallen. The mighty has fallen. Clemson, they'll take on the Citadel this week. Nothing to see there. Clemson will win. Ain't much to talk about. Stanford versus Cal. If Cal gets this win this week, they'll be bowl eligible. They'll be 6-5. And obviously Stanford has nothing really to play for but to upset people. So that game is played in California. So, let them have at it. Virginia Tech versus Duke. Virginia Tech versus Duke. Duke is already bowl eligible. They're 7-3. They'll take on Virginia Tech, who is 5-5 and is looking seeking that 6th win to be bowl eligible. So obviously, must win for Virginia Tech. Improve your stocks if you're Duke. That's where we're at. All right, let's go back to week 12. Let's go back to week 12 and let's shift it over to the SEC. The SEC. You know what, SEC fans, Florida Gator fans, Georgia Bulldog fans, Alabama Crimson Tide fans, Tennessee fans, Texas fans, I should really do the Big Ten before I do the SEC. I should really do the Big Ten first because obviously they're the ones that's dominating in the playoff rankings. Obviously they're the ones that not taking L's every week and crying about it. As you guys know, one of my videos this week has been about Georgia fans and it has been about Alabama fans crying about where they're at in the rankings, crying about where Miami's at, crying about who played who and if we played this game and that game, and the SEC is so great. But when you look at the top 25, if you just start with the top 5, the only team in there from the SEC is Texas. The rest of it is all Big Ten. It's all Big Ten. So I probably should have started with the Big Ten over the SEC. But I don't want to hear all the crying. So after the ACC, we're going to just dive right into this SEC. So SEC fans, don't cry. Georgia Bulldog fans, y'all won yesterday. You got reason to be happy. Don't cry. We don't want to hear the tears. I haven't spotted Sarge in the chat yet, so not quite sure if he's watching. But if you're watching, Sarge, hey, congratulations on that win. But these boys still want to know what happened last week. That's tough. So Texas, Arkansas. Texas handled business. Slow game from the beginning to the end, basically. 10-0 at halftime, Texas up, and then they scored another 10 in the second half. Arkansas only put up 10. So Texas will improve. They won't drop in the rankings or anything like that. They continue to basically just have that one loss to Georgia. Their SEC championship aspirations is still there. Now Arkansas, they're at 3-4 in conference, obviously 5-5 in the country. They're just looking for a next win to make it to the postseason. So there you have it. Now, let me give Florida fans something to talk about. Florida fans, I don't know if it crossed your mind, but remember when Trevor Etienne left you guys, and he said that basically he wants to play in December. Well, this is your chance, Florida fans. This is your chance. If you beat Ole Miss and Florida State, you're bowl eligible. You'll be playing in December. There you go. You'll be 6-6, or you'll be 7-5, and you'll make it to December. And you can say, "There you go, ETN. We proved you wrong." You'll play in the postseason because obviously he left you guys to go to Georgia because he didn't think y'all would ever make it to bowl games. Oh, Sarge is in the chat. Sarge, I'm gonna put the link in the chat because these people need some answers, my boy. They need some answers. They basically said, Sarge, last week, why are you running? Why are you running? Why are you running? He said dogs will be the national champs. So y'all gonna win the national championship this year. Okay.
Get some help.
Man, that's tough. Man, that's tough. But Sarge, the link is in the chat. Oh my God. The people are demanding answers. They need the president of the Georgia Bulldog fan club to come to the front of the congregation this morning. All right, so obviously, and perfect timing too, because we're going to talk about Tennessee versus Georgia yesterday. So it would be great to have Sarge come on here and give his expertise, on what he saw yesterday. Clearly, he knows the Georgia Bulldog players better than I do. I do know that Stetson Bennett is one of those, guys. Not Stetson Bennett. Why do I keep calling Stetson Bennett? But anyway, man, Sarge is in the building. Sarge, what's going on, man?
He is Stetson Bennett. You didn't know?
They're the same person, huh?
They're the same person. He's just a little bit taller.
Now, Carson Beck, I have been seeing a lot of people posting pictures of him and the little guy from South Park, Timmy. Everybody's saying he looked like Timmy. You know, the little guy in the wheelchair, Timmy. That guy.
Yeah. I mean, they talked a bunch of trash about Stetson. I was told that Stetson would never win. That's what I was told. You know when we used to talk back in the COVID times. For all you new people that's here new to the channel, first of all, hit the like button, subscribe. Me and T2Y, we've been doing this thing since the COVID times. I've been a fan before Georgia won the national championships. And I got so much hate about Stetson, how he could never win and how he was too small.
The mailman.
He effed around and won 2 national championships.
The mailman.
Yeah. So, I mean, all the talk about Carson, it's all been silence. I was told Georgia's going to lose 4 games and Georgia's not good. The dynasty's over and they're going to get blown out by Tennessee. And, all this happy horse shit,
I could say this. My prediction for Georgia was to lose to Alabama. I got mine right.
Yeah. But what did you text me last night, though?
I was like, man, Tennessee might beat y'all by 7-up.
Yeah. And what did I say?
Man, Kirby ain't gonna let it happen. That's
exactly.
That's tough. Tennessee with the meltdown. But hold on now. The fans, they don't want to just talk about Tennessee. They want to go a week back because they didn't catch you last week.
Yeah. I was working, man. But shout out to Ole Miss. We got our butt kicked. You know what I'm saying? That's our 4th loss in what 4 seasons. So I mean, we can't be perfect. I'll take 96 out of 100. You ever took a test before and you didn't make 100%, but you got a 96? You know what I'm saying? I'm happy with a 96. A 96 is cool. We got our butt kicked, but all that ended when the game was over.
What did you observe in that game?
Guys just gave up, man. Our guys didn't care. You got Carson laughing on the sidelines in the 4th quarter, down by 10 points. He on the sidelines laughing, smiling.
Nah, it got so bad last week that there are actually videos out there of your guys celebrating with Ole Miss guys.
Yeah, it was one of our backup players. He knew some family. He had some family from Ole Miss, and yeah, man, he was jumping around because he had seen the old friend. So it looked like he was celebrating, but he was happy that his friend was on the field. But either less, I mean, people say what they want to say. Social media type what they want to type. You know what I'm saying? But let's talk about, since we talked about last week. What happened to y'all last week?
We lost. We addressed it. Our loss.
Okay, y'all lost to the Bumblebees, right?
Yeah, we addressed that last week. We stood in the paint. You was missing,
Okay,
so they trying to hold
okay.
you accountable right now. You wasn't here last week after the loss, so you know they were coming for you. You know when Georgia lose. Oh, we lost Sarge. Hold on, let me put the link back in the chat. Yeah, you know when Georgia lose, everybody need answers because every season we all know how you are. You come in here and you tell us you're going undefeated, you're winning the national championship. If you lose a game, the next week you're gonna say, "Well, 14-1, we're gonna win the championship." So, you already know how it is. They're gonna come for you. They're gonna come seeking answers, and when you're not here, they're gonna be disappointed, and they're gonna tell you that you ran, you didn't show up, instead of the third. So, it is what it is, man. Win some, you lose some, but you got to stand in the paint. All right, so hopefully, Sarge will click back on. Probably lost signal or something. Hopefully, your phone ain't died. But anyways, Tennessee versus Georgia yesterday. All right, there we go. We got action. Yeah, like I said, when you lose, they're gonna come looking for you.
My bad, bro.
Now you good.
My,
So,
my bad. I lost you, bro. But anyway, yeah, you can hold me accountable. You can
yeah.
hold me accountable for last week, man. It's cool.
So Lane
It's
Kiffin
all right, man.
obviously with a signature win, one of those coaches to come in and finally knock off Kirby after all them tries and miss, But
Yeah, I mean
congratulations
that'll
to
make up
missing
for it.
them.
Last year we
They're,
beat them 52-17 last year, so that make up for it.
yeah, so obviously they're teams that's still alive a little bit in the SEC. So Tennessee versus Georgia. What was your observation?
Started off slow. They dug a hole. They was down 10-0 in the first quarter. I think we had like one first down in the first quarter. Defense started getting tired. Um, Made some adjustments. We did lose one of our best receivers, but Nitro Tuggle stepped up, man. Freshman wide receiver stepped up. Game tied 17-17 at halftime. And then made our adjustments.
We lost Sarge again. Yeah, he probably in a bad area. Probably got bad signal. But yeah, Georgia pulled it off in the second half. Georgia, for all we know, Georgia this season, they have been a second half team, and
Yeah,
that
we're the second half team. We just been Jekyll and Hyde. Sometimes we good, sometimes we bad.
yeah, going into halftime though, it was 17-7, 17-17. I'm sorry, and then Georgia just went on a two score deal, win the game. Same old, same old.
Yep, they was up 10-0, and then the final score was 31-17. Yeah, that's pretty much how it went.
In Tennessee, in typical Tennessee fashion, come up short, never actually, finish games. Let down, of course, all the Tennessee fans are let down again, once again. It's nothing new to them.
Yeah, I mean we don't beat them 7 years in a row, so 7 straight times. So shout out to them though.
Now, obviously, there's nothing to talk about in Alabama. They played Mercer yesterday, a cupcake team, knocked them off. Alabama is still hanging around. So I kind of want you to talk about this, Sarge. Let me run through the rest of this SEC stuff. And who is that? Canes forever. Okay. So obviously, Texas A&M they played a nobody, and New Mexico State they won. South Carolina versus Missouri, great game, great game. Came down to the wire. South Carolina pulled it off. They're both now 7-3, both bowl eligible. Both middle of the pack teams right now. Sarge, what was your thoughts on Florida knocking off LSU?
Shout out to the Lizards, man. I mean, it's actually good because Billy's gonna stay, and we can keep whooping his tail. So I'm glad Florida beat LSU. Brian Kelly, his buyout is like 60 million, so he's not going nowhere. LSU just can't play defense. They just don't care about defense.
I want to give a thanks to both LSU and Florida yesterday because I think this solidifies, the chances for Miami to get DJ Pickett.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
LSU obviously came to town and got whooped by Florida, a lesser team.
No, DJ was at the stadium last night.
Yeah, DJU did his thing. Now, I'm not DJU, DJ Lagway. He did his thing.
DJ.
Okay, so not only did Florida host, DJ, he watched LSU, who he's committed to, lose, and obviously Florida is terrible. And I think in DJ Pickett's recruitment, it's Miami, LSU, and Oregon that's hanging around. So obviously last night was great for Miami.
He was with us though. He was in Athens last night.
So he changed his mind on Florida?
I guess, man, if he watching us play Tennessee.
Man, that's tough. That would have been a great mission for us last night. Florida's 5-5.
Yeah.
Going into Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Now let me throw a little splash into this. Florida goes out and beat Ole Miss. What does that say about Georgia?
It says we play like trash, but I don't care what people say about us.
I would probably revisit my own statement where I said that had DJ Lagway played that whole game against Georgia, they would have beaten y'all.
I know, man. I hear woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Man, I think they would have beat y'all. I can hear goofy ass Sarge. Hold on. Oh man, Henry Lee going in.
Bulldog from way back, man. I hear Henry Lee. Where is Henry Lee?
Henry Lee said I can hear goofy ass Sarge talking about they only lost 7 games after they don't make the championship game.
What is he talking about? Only lost 7 games.
He said that basically, if y'all had lost 7 games, you would have been like, man, we only lost 7 games. We still should have been in the championship.
What do you mean? When was the last? Can somebody Google that? Can somebody Google the last time Georgia lost 7 games? It's like 40 years ago.
Yeah, I can tell you one thing. You ain't got to Google when the last time Florida State lost 7 games.
Can somebody Google the last time? Can somebody in the chat find the last year Georgia lost 7 games? Probably back in the Jim Donnan. Yeah, the Jim Donnan. Even Kirby was like, what, 8-5 his first year? So maybe in the Jim Donnan days, we lost 7 games. Maybe like early 90s, I think.
Man, that's tough. Auburn handled business against UNL Monroe. They ain't nothing to talk about. Kentucky beat Missouri, Morris State or whatever. Nothing to really talk about there. So that's your SEC matchups that happened yesterday. Let's go into week 13 because it should be interesting. Obviously, the chaos that happened was Georgia actually knocking off Tennessee, making it a little bit chaotic.
Which we knew what was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen.
Nah, the country didn't know it was going to happen, dog. They were divided.
The country is wrong 90% of the time. The country say all the time.
What's going on, T2Y?
What's good with you, man?
I can't call it. Just sitting back watching all this football yesterday, trying to see what's going on with our defense. Why everybody else can.
I see Drip in the chat. He said Lagway came back. And we got the win. Let's go Gators. Man, respectable win, man. Respectable win. Listen, I don't like the Gators, and I think y'all know that. I think them baby lizards should lose every game every now and then. But obviously for the channel, I do need Florida to win. But I must say this. I'm a guy that when I see certain talent and I see certain character, and I like these people like Lagway. He's one of those people that I actually like. So I want to see him do good.
You got to give
Unfortunately,
credit what credit due. Yesterday they looked good and they're a young team. All
yeah,
this talk we've
what
been
I'm
talking
saying
about
is
Billy Napier.
you could not like a team, but you could like a certain player, and you want to see him do good. Lagway is one of those kids, man. I want to see the kid do good. When I watch him, I want to see him do good. So obviously, I'm at a crossroad because if he does good, the Gators do good. If he does bad, the Gators do bad. But I want him to do good. So with him going out there, and I even told you guys this, had Lagway played the whole game against Georgia, they would have beaten Georgia. I believe Lagway is one of them kids I actually believe in. It's
I
hard
like
for
I
me,
like
it's
what
hard for
could
me
have
to root
been.
against him. It's hard for me to root against him. That's where I'm at. I'm at a crossroad with Lagway, but
Welcome,
Gators,
welcome to woulda, coulda, shoulda land, y'all.
like I said, Gator fans let yesterday in the video after you guys won, respectable win. You beat a ranked LSU team. You beat them at the Swamp. Now, obviously, y'all should have did what Steve Spurrier told y'all to do and rush the field so I could laugh at you, but you didn't. You know, but good win, Florida Gator fans, man. Good win. Respect due. Respect due. That was a great win. You put yourself in position to where you can make bowls. You can make a bowl now. You're definitely gonna beat Florida State.
Yeah, they're definitely gonna beat Florida State. Yeah.
So you're obviously gonna win 6 games. Guess what? You're over and under this year was what? Was it 4.5?
Yeah,
You
it was
win,
4.5.
you win
Yeah.
5 and you win 6. You covered. You covered.
They
Listen.
should be
Moving
happy. They should
forward,
be happy with 6 wins.
Gator fans. Moving forward, I'm gonna be rooting for y'all. Y'all are not in our way. Y'all are not in our way. Y'all are not in Miami's way. I'm rooting for y'all the rest of the way out. I'm rooting for you Gators. You hear it right. I'm rooting for the Gators the rest of the way out. Florida State, I would root for y'all, but ain't nothing to root for. Y'all ain't in our way either. Obviously, I need y'all fans to start showing back up. So, you need to win. They ain't showing up if they ain't winning. So I'm gonna have to start rooting for some of these Gators and Seminoles. I need them to win so they fans can show back up. Obviously, them having a terrible season like this, how many Florida State fans outside of Henry Lee you see in here today?
0.
Montreal was in here earlier, but that's only
That's
2.
about it. That's
That's
about
only
it.
2. Normally, when they winning, they flood the chat. Sometimes they even take it over.
Well, they said what y'all said. Remember when they said we want Georgia?
Oh, we still want Georgia. Y'all
No,
still,
y'all no, y'all don't even want Georgia Tech.
man. Y'all still cake, man. Y'all still
Y'all
cake.
don't even want Georgia Tech, bro.
Y'all still cake. I still got Georgia Tech beating y'all.
Okay, let's put some money on that.
Negative Ghost Rider. All right, so
Hey,
this week,
everybody in the chat, put a 1 in the chat. You think Georgia Tech gonna beat Georgia?
all right, so this week, you know what? Let's skip the LSU Vanderbilt. Let's skip the Texas A&M and Auburn game. Vanderbilt's bowl eligible, LSU bowl eligible. You know what? Vanderbilt versus LSU. Who y'all got? Who you taking?
I got Vandy. LSU, they know their season's over. I got Vandy.
I want to take Vandy too. I think the Cinderella story should continue. I'm gonna take Vandy. I'm gonna just take Vandy for it. Auburn versus Texas A&M. I'm gonna just take Texas A&M. I don't believe in Auburn at all, none whatsoever. So I'm gonna keep it moving on them.
Yeah.
You can't ever tell me the last time Gators rushed the field. That will be never. Steve Spurrier was pushing for it, man. I was hoping it would have happened. I'd have had trolling material for weeks. I'd have had trolling material, but nonetheless. All right, so I think we all gonna go with Vandy on this one. Hopefully they get the win over LSU, and we'll see some Brian Kelly talk, some fans upset. ruffle a little feather, in the Tigers fan base and everything like that. So SEC, Florida Gators versus Ole Miss. The beginning of the year, when Florida started losing, when Miami did what they did, when things was looking a little bit dark in Gainesville, even though they had the toughest schedule in the country, the fans were still upset. The fans was calling for Billy's head. And one of the main candidates that they was talking about was Lane Kiffin. Then they saw Lane Kiffin lost 2 games, and then the mind changed. Now, obviously, Florida versus Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin versus Billy. Billy's already promised a whole another year. So that's where we're at right now. But if Billy were to get a signature win this week against Ole Miss, I think that will pump life into that Gator fan base. I think some of them would owe Billy an apology. When you look at the Florida Gators team as a whole, from a football standpoint, and not just a trolling standpoint, they are missing a lot of key pieces throughout this season due to injury. So I don't think you see the full capacity of Florida. I don't think you see them at their full potential. Now, obviously, Miami was just light years ahead of them, light years better than them, because they did play with most of those guys that are missing right now against Miami. They just got whooped, plain and simple. They got beat. They got a beating. Miami went in that thing, silenced the place, turned the whole place orange and green. Miami was the only one in there singing "Won't Back Down." Hey baby, ain't no easy way out. Miami fans was the only one singing it at the end of the fourth quarter because the score was 38 to what 10. But obviously, Florida, with the lack of so many players due to injury, they're still putting out quality games. Now they come up short a little bit in some of them, but they still are putting out quality games. They're still fighting. They are fighting for Billy. They are playing hard for Billy. Lagway, I think, gave them the best chance to win games, and it's been proven. Even what's the guy from the Pivot Show, the former Gator, I think Crowder. He's also said it that they need to play Lagway from the beginning. I think Billy was being a little too loyal to Graham Mertz, to be honest with you. Lagway give them the best chance to win, and you also seen that when he got injured, what happened. Had he finished against Georgia, I think Florida beat Georgia. Had he played, the whole season as they started, their record probably would be better. Their record probably would be better. They still would lose to Miami, in my opinion. You did see a glimpse of him against Miami. They still would have lost the game, in my opinion. Game would have been a little bit more close, plain and simple. But Florida versus Ole Miss. Jackson Dart, 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's already thrown for 3,400 yards already. Henry Parrish, we're very familiar with him at Miami. 130 carries for 678 yards and 10 touchdowns on the season. He's having a good year. Obviously, their receiver, Harris, he's doing pretty well too, almost at 1,000 yards. He'll get there against Florida, where he's also got 6 touchdowns, 13 yards away from that from a 1,000-yard season. So I do believe he'll get that 13 yards against Florida. This game is in Gainesville. The Swamp. I was watching that game yesterday. The Swamp was back to being the Swamp that you Florida Gators fans know. 90-something thousand of y'all in there. It's loud. It's a toxic environment. I must say, as a Miami fan, we didn't experience that. We don't know what that feel like. Obviously, LSU did, but we didn't. We don't know what that feel like. We silenced that. We got in there and put their foot in their mouth early, so they weren't even talking in the Swamp when Miami played. But yesterday, tremendous atmosphere for them Gators. They showed up and showed out. Obviously, it's an SEC rival. Them and LSU is more of a bigger rival than Miami and Florida at this point because we barely ever play each other. So they fans showed out and they showed up. They did it for Billy. That's tough. They did it for Billy yesterday. Lane Kiffin's coming to town. 12 o'clock game. This is a 12 o'clock game on ESPN. Now, I'm gonna be watching the Miami versus Wake Forest game, but obviously I'm gonna have to put this game on my tablet. I watch the regular game on the TV, of course, and then I'll watch the Florida Gator one on the side, and I'll also have the channel running during the Florida State versus Charleston Southern game. I'll have that. I won't be talking during that one. I'll just have it playing for you guys. You guys could just watch it on the screen with the ESPN Plus or whatever. So I'll have Florida State next week. I'll have Florida State versus Charleston Southern at 1:30 on the channel. You guys can watch that game. I won't be, doing any commentary during that game unless it's necessary. I'll be watching Miami versus Wake Forest, and I'll be flipping back and forth between them and whoever's playing again, because I do believe Miami's going to, jump out on Wake Forest, and it's going to be a total domination. I think they got something to play for. So, nonetheless, Ole Miss versus Florida. Where do you guys think Florida stand in this game? Do you think Florida actually have a chance to win this game? Also, let's take a quick look at the ESPN matchup prediction on this one. For those of you guys that are wondering, the matchup prediction on the Miami versus Wake Forest, Miami's at like a 90-something% chance to win the game. So clearly. Now, ESPN matchup predictor for Ole Miss versus Florida, so you guys don't think that I'm making up numbers. These are ESPN numbers. 77.8% chance for Ole Miss to win. They're giving Florida a 22.2 chance to win the game. Now, 61 degrees in Gainesville, that's going to be the weather. Obviously, Miami is 70, and Gainesville will be 61. They're playing at the same time. So I say that to go back to the beginning of the year when Miami was about to play against Florida, and there was a Gator fan, a Gator channel, Locked On Gators, Brandon, said that Miami was going to go to the swamp and be affected by the weather. Clearly, you don't know his geography, because it's actually more hot in Miami than it is in Gainesville. But that's tough. Gainesville will be 61 degrees while Miami will be 70 degrees. You get it. It'll be colder in Gainesville. Obviously, coming off the LSU win, they'll be hyped. It's going to be interesting to see if Florida can go toe-to-toe with an offense like Ole Miss. It's going to be interesting to see. Tremendous defensive game for Florida yesterday also. So it's going to be interesting, man. SEC. Now, obviously, this game, Florida win, it's not going to have much of an impact on the SEC when it comes to, the stand-ins and the SEC championship. This is more of a respect for Florida kind of game. Win, you earn the respect. Also, if you win, you earn bowl eligibility. And obviously, you go above and beyond once you beat Florida State. But if you win this game, you're bowl eligible. You're going to the postseason. You have just proven Trevor Etienne wrong, who said in a podcast that basically Florida don't play in December. That's why he left for Georgia, because y'all ain't never played in the postseason. So you got 2 more games to do it. I think you definitely do it against Florida State. But I think Ole Miss will be an icing on the cake if he could beat them. This will be a huge signature win. This will be back-to-back ranked teams wins. This will be 2 of the games that everybody said that you probably would have dropped last year, that you went out and proved them wrong. Now, for Florida fans, I don't know how you're going to take this, but if you do beat them and you do beat Florida State, that's a 7-win season. Billy's back on the plus side. Plus, he's already guaranteed next year. I'm pretty sure you guys are going to be hoping that, recruits are drawn to this and they see where you guys are headed and projected for. And hopefully, you get some commits and all that. But, we'll see how all of this turn out. Worst case scenario for you Gators, which I don't see it happening, is you guys finish the season 5-7. You drop this game against Ole Miss, and then you drop Florida State also. That's the worst case scenario. That's at this point your ceiling is 7-5. Your floor is 5-7. Push come to shove, you'll be 6-6. But that's where we are with the Gators. That's where we are this week with the SEC with the big three. You got Florida versus Ole Miss. This week coming, easy cupcake game for the Georgia Bulldogs. They play UMass. Nobody cares. Nobody will watch. Tennessee versus UTEP. Nobody cared. Nobody will watch. Texas versus Kentucky. Not quite sure how big of a matchup this will be, but I think Texas will win. I think they'll cruise. Probably struggle a little bit in the game, some part of it, but they'll still get the win against Kentucky. Wofford versus South Carolina. Nobody cares. Nobody will watch. Easy game. Arkansas, they look to be bowl eligible this week. They take on Louisiana Tech. They are at home. I think they get the win. I think they become bowl eligible. But it's one of those games that people are, watch just to see if some drama unfolds where Arkansas, might be on upset alert against an LA Tech, who is 4-16, by the way. So I don't see them losing that game. But if that game gets any views, it's because it's on upset alert. It's on Arkansas's doing terrible in the first half, and people are tuning in to see how the outcomes is. But I'll take Arkansas for the win against LA Tech. Missouri versus Ole Miss, another one that, Missouri pretty much is just planning to move up the totem pole in the bowl for bowl eligibility or whatever. They're already 7 wins. They just want a better bowl game, basically. Mississippi State coming in with nothing to play. They're 0-6 in conference, 2-8 as a whole. So, you get that kind of deal. Alabama versus Oklahoma, 7 o'clock game, 7:30 game, prime time. Number 10, Alabama, which they'll move up in the rankings, in my opinion. They'll take on Oklahoma that's seeking their 6th win to be bowl eligible. Also looking to spoil Alabama's chances at the playoffs and chances at, possibly trying to make their way into the mix for the SEC championship. Because as of right now, they're still kind of alive. I think the only team that really controlled their destiny after watching yesterday is Texas A&M and Texas. And those two teams play each other at the end of the year, so one of them will knock each other off. Speaking of Texas A&M, they take on Auburn this week. A 1-5 in conference Auburn, a 4-6 Auburn. I think they'll get that win. And obviously, we already talked about Vanderbilt versus, LSU. So obviously, some of these games shift on the screen because the time for those games has been announced and, the time slots has been, put in. So that's the SEC this week, man. Jam-packed. Let's just say for this week in the SEC, matchups to pay attention to mostly would be Alabama versus Oklahoma, of course. Texas A&M versus Auburn. Obviously, Texas A&M is still alive for the SEC championship. Kentucky versus Texas, that one too. Clearly, we think Texas is going to win. But if Texas were to lose, this would affect the SEC championship. Another one too is Florida versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss is one of those teams that are still hanging around also. So clearly, those are the games to pay attention to. Ole Miss, Florida, Kentucky versus Texas, Oklahoma versus Alabama, and Texas A&M versus Auburn. Those 4 games, those are the ones to pay attention to. Those are the ones that's going to mainly affect how you look at the SEC championship. The outlook could change if some of those upsets happens. All right, let's go into the Big 12. As of right now, due to the conference, rankings and everything like that, the Big 10 is the main deal. So we'll talk about the main deal last. But let's go into week 12. Let's go into week 12 of the Big 12. Obviously, that conference, a lot of shakeups happened in that one too. Some losses, some key losses happened. So that Friday night, Arizona, they handled business. They beat Houston. Both of those teams are 4-6 at the moment with two more games to play. Um, they're both just looking for bowl eligible. It, nothing really to see from those two teams. Kansas with the upset. BYU, number 6 in the country, they are no longer undefeated. 2 weeks in a row, undefeated team gone down. 2 weeks in a row. Last week, of course, it was the Miami Hurricanes, unfortunately for us Hurricane fans. But this week, BYU goes down. Also, keep in mind, Oregon, they survived. They survived. They almost went down to Wisconsin, but BYU went down 17-13. This was a game that was tied at half at 10. Obviously, Kansas found a way to get a touchdown in the fourth quarter, while in the second half, BYU only managed to put up 3 points. So this was one of those games that I had on upset alert last week, and clearly it happened. BYU is now 9-1 with a loss also a loss in conference. So that kind of shift the momentum in the Big 12. So Arizona versus Kansas, another upset. Kansas State was the number 16 team in the country. Going into this game, they was favored, but not by much. Arizona State, I had them on upset alert also. They won by 10. I thought it would have been a lot closer than that, maybe a 3-point game. But nonetheless, they got the win, and they improved to 8-2. They also 5-2 in conference. They're still alive somewhat. Utah versus Colorado, just what I expected. Colorado to win. Colorado is 6-1 in conference. Utah is 1-6 in conference, just to kind of give you guys an idea. Utah is without Cam Rising. So obviously I pick against Utah almost every week now. Every now and then they'll, upset a team or they'll dig out a win, but I had Colorado to win this one, and they won. Baylor went into West Virginia and got the win. Baylor is now bowl eligible, while West Virginia got 2 more games to basically get bowl eligible. That's where we're at. Baylor, terrible season. Started off a little bit rough, but they picked up a little steam. Now they're bowl eligible. Iowa State got the job done against Cincinnati last night. Break their losing streak. They are now improved to 8-2 and 5-2 in conference. So they broke that little losing streak that they had going. So obviously, we're going to look at the standings for both the SEC, the standings for the Big 12 in a second and stuff like that. But let's go into week 13 for the Big 12. So with the Big 12, Saturday, 3:00, they have, it seems like they have no Big 12, no games at noon. So 3:00 they'll kick off. TCU versus Arizona. Arizona 4-6. TCU is already bowl eligible. They're 6-4. TCU is playing at home. I kind of want to put this one on upset alert this week. I kind of want to put this on upset alert because I could see Arizona, upsetting TCU. TCU is not a consistent team. They'll get a winner here and there, and then they'll drop a game out of nowhere. I think Arizona right now, they're in desperation mode. They got 2 more games left. They're looking to go bowl eligible. They're trying their best. I think if anything, they get the job done in a close one against TCU at home. But that one I'm going to put on upset alert. BYU versus Arizona State. This one, Arizona State is at home. I'm also going to put this one on upset alert. I honestly think that BYU is going to drop this game. They're going to drop 2 games in a row. That's my belief. Obviously, you guys could think otherwise, but I think that BYU is going to get their second loss in a row this week. I'm taking Arizona for that win. BYU will pretty much drop out of the college football playoffs contention. Colorado versus Kansas. This is at Kansas City. Colorado, I think they'll go in there and I think they'll get the win. I think Colorado is going to be the Big 12 champion this year. I think Colorado will be the Big 12 champion this year. Colorado versus Kansas. Kansas 4-6. They're looking to survive and win another game to get closer to bowl eligibility. But I'm going to take Colorado for the win. I'm going to take Dion and, Travis Hunter, Shador Sanders, and those guys. They're going to go into Kansas and get that win. They're going to improve to 7-1 in conference. They're going to go to the conference championship, and they're going to win the conference championship, in my opinion. I think Colorado is the team that's going to come out of the Big 12 as the Big 12 champions. Shocking, a lot of fans didn't see this quite happening this way this season. They thought Dion would probably have a 6-win season. They make it bowl eligible after, picking up a team that was 1-11 and then went 4-8 last year. So obviously they're doing a phenomenal thing. They're already doubled their wins from last year. They're sitting at 8-2 with 2 more games left in the season. I think that Colorado is going to come out of the Big 12 as the champions. Texas Tech, they're sitting at 6-4. Oklahoma State, total letdown this season. Started off with high expectations, ranked number 16 in the country at the beginning of the year, and they've gone downhill since. They're 0-7 in conference. I think Texas Tech will handle business. Oklahoma State is at home, but I think that Texas Tech, offense is going to be too much high power for Oklahoma State to handle. UCF versus West Virginia. UCF versus West Virginia. Obviously, in Morgantown, West Virginia is 5-5, looking for a bowl eligible. UCF is looking to survive and see if they could go bowl eligible the next game after. So I think UCF season will end pretty much this week against West Virginia. I think West Virginia will get this win. There's uncertainties at UCF about quarterbacks. They've been juggling with freshmen. They've even juggled Jakari Brown in there. KJ Jefferson pretty much got benched and all that. They have a lot of issues at UCF right now. They're sitting at 4-6, and I think West Virginia will get the win on the road. Not on the road, at home, and they'll be bowl eligible at 6-5. Unfortunately for UCF, with that 7th loss, that'll be the end of their season. That's in my opinion. Baylor, Houston 4-6, Baylor 6-4. This game will be played at Houston. I'm gonna take Baylor. I don't have no belief in Houston this season. They're an up and down team, but it's mostly downs than ups. So I'm gonna take Baylor for the win, and I'm gonna take Houston's season to be over with. Also, Iowa State versus Utah. This one is on a 50-50 to me. I think Utah could get the job done against Iowa State, but I'm more heavily favoring towards Iowa State, but I could see the upset. So this one is on 50-50 to me. I'm going to stay away from that one. Cincinnati versus Kansas State. Kansas State just came off a loss. Cincinnati is looking for a bowl win. Cincinnati will go on the road looking to be bowl eligible. This is one of those games where I can't call it either. I know Cincinnati is going to go in there and play their absolute best. Kansas State is just coming off of a loss, so they're going to be, looking for a get back. This is one of those games that I can't call it either. I I don't know which direction to go with this one. Obviously, I'll wait and see what the spread's like, and I'll see what the information's on both of these teams, because obviously when that stuff come out and you click on it and they give you the information on why they're going this way or that way, why it's leaning this way and that way, then I could process it a little bit more. Obviously, I don't cover these teams, on a daily basis to know their strengths and weaknesses to the tip of my mind. So I'm gonna stay away from those. I'm gonna stay away from that one. So obviously, right now the conference that's dominating the most in college football as of this season, as you guys know, last year the Pac-12, the Pac-12 was considered the toughest conference last year based on wins and losses and where the teams were yesterday. I mean last season. So this season right now, it's looking like the Big Ten is that conference. So let's go into week 12 and talk about the games that got played yesterday. And trust me, a lot of those games in the Big Ten got played yesterday. Well worth talking about. So start off the week on Friday. You got Washington that beat UCLA pretty much as expected. Washington became bowl eligible with one game left to go in the season. So, congratulations to Washington. UCLA, obviously, their season is not quite over yet. They still have two more games to play where they could become bowl eligible. They would have to win out to do so. Oregon versus Wisconsin, a game that basically Oregon won in the fourth quarter. Why? Wisconsin gave this game away. Oregon improves to 11-0, 8-0 in conference. Wisconsin is 5-5, looking for a bowl, looking just to win one more game to be bowl eligible. That's where we're at with Wisconsin right now. Wisconsin had ample opportunities to win this game. Going into that fourth quarter, they was up 13-6, and they just could not find a way to put any points on the board, while allowing Oregon to score 10 points in the fourth quarter to seal the deal. Tough last second win. Tough, man. Dylan Gabriel yesterday did not throw a single touchdown. He did throw an interception, though. That's the kind of game that Wisconsin played. Wisconsin gave it all, but unfortunately, they came up short. Man, that was a tough game. But the running back for Oregon, he had great numbers yesterday. 25 carries for 121 yards and a touchdown. He's pretty much the dagger in that game. Ohio State handled business without a doubt. They beat Northwestern. Ohio State is my Big Ten champion this year. I know a lot of people is looking at Oregon. Oh, Oregon's gonna win it. I got Ohio State winning the Big Ten this year. I got Ohio State not only beating Indiana, but also playing Oregon in a rematch in the Big Ten championship and winning that rematch. I got Ohio State winning the Big Ten. That's me. You guys could tell me in the chat, you agree, you disagree, do you see it happening, don't see it happening. You guys can let me know. Oregon and Ohio State has already played each other this season. Oregon came out on top by a point. If you watch the end of that game, they won by technicality. Some stuff happened where, Ohio State didn't quite get the chance to do what, possibly could have won the game. But nonetheless, still a win for Oregon. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But this time around, I don't think they get as lucky as they did last time. I think Ohio State will win. I got them winning the Big Ten. Penn State beat Purdue just like I thought they would. Like everybody's been beating them. 49-10. 1-9 Penn State. 1-9 Purdue. Purdue is 0-7 in conference. Purdue, like I've been telling you guys, is the Florida State of the Big Ten. Purdue is 1-9, just like Florida State. They've been getting whooped by everybody, just like Florida State. They got one little win on the season, just like Florida State. They're just Purdue and Florida State is the same team in 2024. They're the bottom feeder of their conference. That's who they are this season. The Florida State Boilermakers or the Purdue Seminoles, whichever one you want to roll with. That's who they are this season. He says, I think Ohio State loses to Michigan. I don't see that happening this year. I don't see Michigan beating anybody without a good quality quarterback. They don't have. Right now, Michigan is willing to spend $10 million a year. I'm sorry, $10 million for 4 years. Let me not, put that out there. But $10 million for 4 years for a quarterback out of high school that hasn't played a snap in college as of yet. So I don't see Ohio State losing to Michigan. Not with Michigan's quarterback situation at this moment. I don't see it happening. Maybe in other years, but not this one. Illinois. Illinois beats Michigan State yesterday, just like we thought it would. 38-16. 2 more games left for Michigan State, so they could try to get bowl eligible. But, nothing pretty much to see there. Nebraska, controversial game. Was Nebraska robbed by USC yesterday? Was Nebraska robbed? There's a controversial ending to that game. Clear pass interference. Clear holding in the end zone. Nonetheless, call was not made. Game over. Pretty much that was the ball game. That cost the ball game. USC wins the game. They improved to 5-5. Nebraska's 5-5. These are both 5-5 teams right now. They're both looking for bowl eligibility. They got 2 more games to do so. But controversial call. Nebraska ends up losing the game 28-20. That was the turning point of that game. That was it. Game over. Obviously, now Grady from Florida State transferred over to USC. He was a part of that big call, no pass interference. Clearly, referees missed out on that one. There's a lot of games that I've been watching lately that the referees are missing out on calls. Replay officials have been, taking things into their own hand. Obviously, when there's delay in the game, whether it's injury, whether it's replays and everything, and the fans are outraged and they see it from different angles, then they actually go and make the call. The flags come in late. But officiating has been terrible, especially being, so close to the playoffs. Officiating has been terrible. A lot of them has been exposed this season. A lot of the officiating problems has been exposed. We even had it to the point where at Texas, they was throwing items on the field until a call got overturned. We've seen it in Miami games where you got guys like Horton running down the sideline with the guy holding his shoulders and everything, and nothing's being called. It's been happening all year, guys. Officiating has just been exposed a lot more lately. But what they always say, don't put the game in the ref hands because they always going to disappoint you. But some of these calls, some of these flags that are not being thrown are just outrageous, and it changes the game. That play against Nebraska and USC definitely changed the outcome of that game tremendously. But anyways, Rutgers beat Maryland just like we thought. Just like I told you guys last week, I don't believe in Maryland's offense. Josh Gaddis, I told you guys last week, Josh Gaddis is their offensive coordinator. It's funny because in the beginning of the season, Josh Gaddis was bragging about where Maryland was points per game. And if I'm not mistaken, the last couple of games, I don't think he's scored much of anything at Maryland. So that's tough. That's tough. Let's take a look at the games coming this week for the Big Ten. See if there's any interesting matchups to talk about. Mr. Young, thank you for the Cash App. Appreciate you, boss. Thank you for the Cash App. Appreciate you. All right, so this week on a Friday night, you got Missouri. I said Missouri. Michigan State versus Purdue. I think Michigan State will win. Purdue is terrible, like I said. I think they'll finish pretty much defeated in Big Ten play. Michigan State will be one more game closer to being bowl eligible. That's what I think this game will be. I think Michigan State wins. Moving on. Game of the week, in my opinion. This will be game of the week. If I'm game day, that's where I'm going to be at. That's where I'm going to be at. This is a big noon kickoff game. But Indiana versus Ohio State in Columbus. Indiana, 10-0. Their undefeated season is on the line. The undefeated season is on the line. Ohio State, 9-1, 6-1 in conference. If Ohio State were to drop this game, they're pretty much out of the race to play for the Big Ten championship. In my opinion, they would be pretty much out of the race. Indiana would improve to 11-0 with one more game left. And if they were to drop that game, there's no way that basically Ohio State could jump them. So me picking Ohio State to win the Big Ten, you guys already know where I'm going with this. I think Ohio State will beat Indiana at home. I think they will cut their undefeated season off at 10 wins. They'll be 10-1. Ohio State will improve to 10-1. I'm taking Ohio State to win this game. I think the Cinderella story, the top win season for Indiana comes to an end. Now, obviously, if I'm wrong, then Indiana will improve to 11-0. They'll be 8-0 in conference. Ohio State's chances of playing for the Big Ten will be done. They won't be able to. They'll have 2 losses in conference. And both Oregon and Indiana will have 0 losses in conference. And if they were to drop 1 each, they still will be ahead of Ohio State. So with that being said, this is going to be game of the week. This is going to be the game to watch. Now, obviously, this is one of those games that I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to pay attention to it, because obviously Miami playing Wake. You got Florida playing Ole Miss. Those games are also on at 12. This game is on at 12. So those are the games that I'm basically going to have to, have the ESPN app open for this one. And, of course, like I told you guys, the Florida State game, that one against Charleston Southern will be on at 1:30. I will play that game on this channel for you guys to watch. For those of you guys that don't have ESPN Plus or ACC Extra, you can come and watch it on the channel next week. I will broadcast it only on YouTube. Only on YouTube. I will not be broadcasting it on Twitter. So if you guys are not following the channel on YouTube, then go ahead and, go hit subscribe on YouTube. It's 100% free. You don't have to pay for nothing. The Florida State game, especially if you're a Florida State fan that want to watch that game, I will be broadcasting it next week at 1:30 on this channel. I will not be doing no commentary, obviously, unless necessary. Obviously, Miami's playing. I'm going to be watching that. The Gators are playing. I'm going to be watching that, and definitely going to be keeping an eye on Indiana versus Ohio State. So next week is going to be jam-packed. Illinois versus Rutgers. Both teams are already bowl eligible. Rutgers at home. Illinois. This one I'm gonna stay away from because I don't really know which direction to go with this. I think it could go either way. I think either team could win, so I'll stay away from it. Iowa go to Maryland to take on the 4-6 Maryland. Maryland is in desperation mode right now. They got 2 more games. They've got 4 wins. They need to win the next 2 to be bowl eligible. I think you're probably going to get the best Maryland team. So in this game, I could see Maryland season being ended because they can't put up points on offense. They're struggling on offense. Also, Iowa's not that great on offense either, but I think Iowa has a better defense than Maryland. So I would lean more towards Iowa winning this game over Maryland at home. So I'll stay away from that one too if I'm a betting man. And let me see what the spread's looking like. Let me see what the reports on both of those teams are. Then I'll make a decision. But as of right now, this is one of those games I would stay away from. I could see it going either way, but I would lean more towards Iowa. Penn State versus Minnesota. I'll take Penn State for the win. Minnesota's already bowl eligible. I think Penn State got a lot more to play for right now. Their hopes and aspirations are still alive. All they got to do is win out, and they'll definitely be in the playoffs. Not quite sure their chances for getting into the Big Ten championship. They would need some help. They would need Ohio State to basically get knocked off. But they would also need Indiana to get knocked off. And so it's kind of a no-win situation for them. I think all Penn State could do is win out and just get into the playoffs without playing for a conference championship. At this point, they have a great chance to do so. They're the number 4 team in the country. Even without a Big Ten appearance, they still would get into the playoffs. Wisconsin versus Nebraska. 5-5. Both teams are 5-5. This is played in Nebraska. I think Wisconsin looks a little bit better based on how I watched them play last night. I think they could go in there and get that win. I think this could be a 50-50 game, to be honest with you. This is one of those games, if you're a betting man, I would stay away from it. But it should be interesting. One of those teams will be bowl eligible. The other one they'll still be alive the next week, but yeah. Michigan versus Northwestern. Michigan 5-5, looking to be bowl eligible. I think they get the job done against Northwestern. But if Northwestern were to get a win off of Michigan, this year would be the year. I think Michigan wins, and I think they become bowl eligible. Now, if Northwestern wants to survive and become bowl eligible, they must win this game. This is a must win for Northwestern if they want to keep their season alive. But me personally, I would put this on upset alert. This is one of those games that I would put on upset alert. I think Michigan is going to be favored. Northwestern hasn't been spectacular. They haven't looked good. They played a little bit tough in the beginning of games, and then they get blown out. Obviously, you saw they're not on Ohio State caliber by any chance. So I'm going to take Michigan for the win, but I could also see this being an upset, to be honest with you, the way Michigan has played this year. USC versus UCLA. USC wins, they're bowl eligible. USC lose, they have to fight the next week to basically become bowl eligible. UCLA, this is a must-win game for them if they want to play in the postseason. This is a must-win. UCLA is at 4-6 right now, coming off a loss to Washington. So I'll take USC for the win. I think they're a stronger team than UCLA, but nonetheless, those games could go either way. All right, so there you have it, guys. That's college football in a wrap, basically, for the whole last week, the games that got played yesterday, and the games that are upcoming this week. Big 12, let's go into some standings right now because that's where a lot of the chaos are, especially in the Big 12 and of course the SEC. So obviously right now too, there's the talks amongst the group of five conferences. Obviously, one of those teams are going to get an at large. Right now, Army is in the mix. They're 7-0 in conference. They're 9-0 total. They're right now they're listed as the number 24 team, which I think that's going to improve on Tuesday once the rankings get readjusted. But they're looking to win the AAC and possibly make a run for getting into the playoffs. Now in the ACC, Clemson concluded their ACC play. They're 7-1. They're done with ACC play. They'll play Citadel and then they'll play South Carolina next. They're done. SMU has 2 more games to play. So let me take a look at SMU's schedule real quick, and I can tell you guys who are the next opponent. I know Virginia's next on the list. I just don't know who's the last game that they play. So this week they'll take on Virginia, and then afterwards they'll take on Cal. So those are SMU's opponent, Virginia and Cal. And obviously Miami, they'll take on Wake Forest and Syracuse. Now, if you're wondering about Florida State, they've concluded their ACC play. They're at the bottom of the list. They're the worst team in the ACC as of right now. They're 1-7. Their only way of not ending the season as the worst ACC team is if Cal would lose the next 2 games, which Cal played SMU at the last game, so they'll definitely lose that one. So it's kind of rough, man. Rough outing for teams like Cal and FSU down at the bottom with 1 ACC win. Man, that's tough. Cal, get a win against one of these teams this year. Get a win against one of them. One more ACC win. So Florida State could be the team down there at the bottom. So we could all laugh at them. Started at the bottom, now we're here. Well, you started at the top last year, now you're down at the bottom. That's tough. Let's keep it moving. So BYU, Colorado. Those are the 2 teams that's leading in the Big 12 right now for conference. 2 more games left. I think they'll survive. I think Colorado will survive. I think Colorado will probably end up playing Arizona State. If I'm not mistaken, Arizona State and BYU play each other. If I'm not mistaken. So I think Arizona State can hand BYU their second loss. I think BYU is going to get a second loss. I don't think BYU is going to actually play for the Big 12 championship. As of their loss yesterday, I don't think so. So let me take a look at BYU's rest of their schedule, because I do think that they'll lose the next game that they play. I think they'll drop 2 in a row. So they play Arizona State. I think they'll drop that game. And then they play Houston. I think they'll win. They'll beat Houston. They'll end with 2 losses in conference. That's my opinion on BYU. Colorado, next 2 opponents. I've already picked Colorado to win the Big 12. Their next opponent will be Kansas, and after Kansas, it'll be Oklahoma State. So that's what's left on their schedule: Kansas and Oklahoma State. I'll take them to go into Kansas and win a close game against Kansas, and then they'll win against Oklahoma. So I think that they will finish with 1 loss in conference. I think Colorado will finish with 1 loss in conference. I got BYU finishing with 2 losses. So Arizona State. Now let's look at their next 2 opponent, which is BYU, the next one. Let's see who they finish off the the year, which should be Arizona in rival week. So they'll play next. They'll play BYU, and then they'll play Arizona, which is rival week. I think they'll beat Arizona and BYU. So I think the Big 12 championship game will be Colorado versus Arizona State. That's where I think the Big 12 championship will be Colorado versus Arizona State. Miami versus SMU for the ACC championship. And I have for the Big 10 championship, I have it Oregon versus Ohio State. Now, like I said, Indiana is undefeated. They'll take on Ohio State this week. I think Ohio State will get the win. They'll improve to 7-1. Indiana will be 7-1, sitting behind them. I think Penn State, they'll win out, just not quite enough. It'll end up being Ohio State versus Oregon. Now, Oregon's 8-0 in conference. They're 11-0. They got one more game left. Now, let's take a look at Oregon's last game. I think we already talked about it, but nonetheless. Their next game is Washington. Washington is a struggling Washington team. I think they'll end the season at 12-0 with a win against Washington. So Oregon will play for the Big Ten championship. I think they'll be the only team in there uncontested. I take Ohio State to beat both Indiana and Michigan in the next two games, and they'll go into the Big Ten championship. And I'll take them also to beat Oregon. So my Big Ten championship is coming through Ohio State this year. I think Ohio State win the Big Ten. All right, let's stroll on down to the SEC. But let's not cruise past the Mountain West yet, because as of right now, Boise State, they are the favorite to not only win that conference, but they're also the favorite to get into the playoff as an at-large. Obviously, Army might have something to say about it, but as of right now, Boise State is the one that's getting in there. They do have a running back that's a Heisman Trophy candidate also. So, not much to really talk about that conference, but SEC. So chaos is brewing in the SEC. Chaos is brewing up in the SEC. You got Texas sitting at number 1. They're 5-1. You got Texas A&M sitting at number 2. They're 5-1. They're 5-1. Both teams play each other the last game of the season. Now, in between next week, you got Texas versus Kentucky. Now, Kentucky hasn't looked spectacular by any means necessary, but I think Kentucky will show up to play against Texas. I think, unfortunately for Kentucky, they're going to come up short. I think Texas versus Texas A&M is going to be the game to watch in rivalry week when it comes to this whole conference. Now, obviously, Texas A&M takes on Auburn this week, and I think they'll win that game. I think Texas A&M will win that game. I think Texas A&M will give themselves a fighting chance going into the game against Texas. I think they'll knock off Auburn this week, and Texas versus Texas A&M will be game of the week for the SEC. Now, obviously, teams that are hanging around and hoping that Kentucky knocks off Texas, and of course Auburn knocks off Texas A&M. You got Georgia hanging around. Georgia best bet right now would be for either Texas to take a loss this upcoming week against Kentucky, or they take a loss against Texas A&M. Obviously, Georgia is in the driving seat right now. If Texas were to lose, Georgia would be in the driving seat. Georgia needs Texas to take an L because Georgia's already beaten Texas. Georgia will be in, as long as they win out, they would be in over Texas because they beat them. In the case Texas beats both Kentucky and they beat Texas A&M, Georgia, as long as they win out, Texas A&M with 2 losses, as long as they beat Auburn but they lost to Texas, Georgia will be ahead of Texas A&M based on them beating Texas, and Texas A&M lost to Texas. So there you'll have the difference in schedule. Obviously, Georgia's losses. Georgia's got 2 losses in conference, which I'll let you know right now. They lost to Ole Miss, and the other loss was Alabama. So they lost to Ole Miss and Alabama. Which, by the way, Tennessee now they got 2 losses. Tennessee's. I want to write Tennessee off because with them losing to Georgia, Tennessee's losses came from Arkansas and Georgia. I want to pretty much write Tennessee off right now. Their next game is against Vanderbilt. Their next game is against Vanderbilt. So I kind of want to just write them off. Georgia's next couple games, they got Georgia Tech at the end of the year. So Georgia's pretty much finished with conference already. Georgia's pretty much finished with conference. Alabama, on the other hand, who's sitting there also, they have Auburn and Oklahoma. They have Auburn and Oklahoma. So if Alabama was the knockoff, both of those teams, they'll finish 6-2 in conference. And I think they would be ahead of Georgia. I think they would be ahead of Georgia because they beat Georgia. So there's still a way for Alabama to get into the championship. And also, but you say Tennessee is still in because they beat Bama. But yeah, but when you look at it, they just lost to Georgia, who lost to Alabama. Georgia, you can't put Georgia over Alabama when they have the same record. When Georgia got beat by Alabama. Now let's take a look at Ole Miss on the other hand. So Ole Miss is another team that's sitting in the mix. How can they get in on the bid? Obviously, they beat Georgia. That's another team that's beaten Georgia, Ole Miss. Their only loss is to LSU. And they do got 2 more games left in Florida and Mississippi State. So Ole Miss is still in the mix also. So this SEC thing, man, the committee is going to have the SEC is going to have a good old time. Let's just say Alabama finishes 6-2. They beat Auburn and Oklahoma. Let's just say Tennessee's next game against Vanderbilt, they win. I think rule Tennessee out. But then again, you really can't because they did beat Vanderbilt. They did beat Vanderbilt, who Alabama lost to. So you still can't rule them out. And Tennessee did beat Alabama. So you still can't rule them out. Ole Miss, on the other hand, they beat Georgia. I think Ole Miss has a great chance. Clearly, it'll be more chaotic if Texas were to lose this week and Texas A&M were to lose this week. If both of those teams were to drop games this week, it would be a total chaos. Now, obviously, after they both drop the games, they play each other. One of them would take each other out. And then you would have a whole crazy mix of who's going to be in the SEC championship. Right now, the SEC is in chaos. It's in total chaos. It's hard to wrap your brain around who's going to play for the SEC championship right now. Who's more deserving? Because most of these teams have knocked each other off. If Ole Miss finishes 6-2 in conference, they could say, "Hey, we beat Georgia." If you try to put Georgia in over them, and say, "Hey, we beat Georgia." Then, if you try to put Georgia in over Alabama, "Hey, we beat Alabama. We beat Georgia." Texas with a loss, "Hey, we beat Texas." If you're a Georgia fan, it's man, it's tough. Now I want you guys to think about this going into this week. Now, obviously, the rankings are going to change because teams took L's. But I want you guys to look at the SEC as a whole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of those teams in the SEC are ranked. Obviously, the ranking is going to change. Missouri lost. They'll drop. LSU lost. They'll drop. Tennessee's going to drop, but they're still going to be in the top 25. And, yeah, you got 7 teams in the SEC that'll still be in the top 25. Now, if you're looking at it from playoff standpoint, obviously, Texas is in the mix. Georgia's in the mix. Georgia will definitely move up. Depending on where they drop Tennessee, they might still be in the mix. Alabama definitely will be in the mix. Ole Miss will be in the mix. And not quite sure about South Carolina with their 3 losses on the season, but they're sitting at number 21 in the country. They just beat Missouri. They might move up in the rankings. Some other teams had some losses in the rank that was ranked ahead of them, so they'll move up a little bit. And then they'll play Clemson at the end of the year, obviously. You know, another ranked team, another team that's in the, top 25, and they'll have a chance to move up again. So it's going to be chaotic. It's going to be chaotic. Right now, it's hard. The SEC is the hardest conference to predict. I'm definitely going to keep an eye out on some of the other guys' videos and some of the other, anchors and analysts' thoughts in this, and hopefully they'll put it down analytically so we could kind of see a path to who got the advantage over who. But based on what we just went through, the SEC is the biggest chaos right now. It's the biggest chaos. It's simple in every other conference what needs to happen, how it happens, and how people get into the conference championship. But the SEC is one of those where it's just chaotic. But anyways, man, appreciate you guys for tuning in, hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, supporting the channel financially by hitting the Cash App that's scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Appreciate y'all for taking the time out of your day to listen, wherever you listen from, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, YouTube, you name it. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Appreciate you guys. Y'all go out and have a good day. Watch some NFL games. Go spend time with your family or whatever.